We cannot wait for an untroubled world to have an untroubled moment. In the meantime, it's best to grab whatever wondrous moments we can and enjoy them. Now, that was a bit of a paraphrase from Lemony Snicket, but I think it sums up exactly what we're doing in this Joy Refresh series. So, welcome to the series. I'm Tiffany, and for the next few weeks, we're going to be in this Joy Refresh. And today, we're specifically talking about joyful rituals and how to add joyful moments to our daily lives so that we have things to look forward to, things that enhance our well-being and our mental health, things that will bolster us to help us get through the fall and the winter, not just the actual season that is coming, but also the metaphorical fall and winters that we go through as people when difficult things happen. So if all of that sounds good, stay tuned. We're going to talk about 3 things today. First, we're going to talk about what are joyful rituals. Then we're going to talk about how to identify those moments in your life, how to deepen them, how to create them. I'll give you some specific ways to do that. And then we're also going to talk about how to refresh those moments for fall and winter to really give them some seasonality and intention and purpose. All right, how to identify these moments in our lives. Chances are you already have some rituals going on in your life. And as we talk, I think some of those may come to mind. But first, let's talk about the difference between a habit, a practice, and a ritual. And I don't want you to get too concerned about meeting the definition of this. This is just to kind of help you define what a ritual would be. So a habit is something, of course, that's habitual. It goes on, it's just automatic, like brushing your teeth or checking your phone. You don't really have to think about that. It's just built in. That's a habit. A practice is something that you meet with intentionality, but the purpose is to grow or maintain a skill. So something like a yoga practice or an exercise practice, sometimes even like a journaling practice can be more of a practice and less of a ritual. The purpose is really for the skill that's happening there. Now, a ritual, the purpose of a ritual is the purpose and meaning. You're really trying to tap into the joy, tap into the moment, maybe connect with another person, depending on what that ritual is, or connect with yourself in that moment in a mindfulness kind of practice. That would be into the ritual aspect. But again, I don't want us to get like hung up on these definitions, but just to kind of give you an idea that a ritual is something that really brings that purpose and meaning to our lives. Okay, so let's talk about how to identify and create these rituals in your life. So like I said, you may have things in your life already that would fall into the ritual category or that could with just a little bit of deepening and intentionality. So think about your day, your morning, your afternoon, your evening, and what kind of things you're doing. So often, a lot of people have a practice of drinking that morning cup of coffee. That can become a ritual. For me, that often is a ritual, although I will say I need to kind of clean that up, and we're going to talk about that in a few minutes. So stay tuned for that story. But that morning coffee can be a ritual for me. I also have an afternoon coffee break habit that can be a ritual for me if I meet that with intentionality. It's something I do every day that I look forward to every day, but in order for it to really be a ritual, I need to be pretty mindful and intentional with it. So there's some ways to do that. You may have mindfulness or a prayer practice that you do in the morning. Of course, that can be a really good, joyful ritual for us to have. In the afternoon, maybe you take a walk. Maybe you have that morning or afternoon coffee time or other kind of break. Maybe you are connecting with others or you frequently meet people at a coffee shop in the afternoon. That can also be a ritual. Now, in the evening time, maybe you have a time where you clean the kitchen up and you close the kitchen for the night. That can be a ritual where you're intentionally moving from your daytime activities into a more restful part of your evening. A bedtime routine can also be that for you. A skincare system or a skincare practice can be that helping you move into that sleepier time, that bedtime. So that's another way to think about rituals and where to add them to your life. Transition times during your day are great times to add some ritual. So think about either when you're starting work or when you're ending work, or maybe you're starting a project. Maybe a lot of writers will light the same candle every time right before they write. And it's like a signal to them to take a moment and realize, okay, now I'm starting this project. I'm intentionally coming to this. For your work, you may have something like it could be your commute time. A lot of times, if you're driving in traffic, that's not something to look forward to, really. But if you work from home, there's often the advice to take a walk and give yourself kind of a pretend commute, but something to break that home life to work life. And then again, at the end of the day, it's often recommended to close up your workday, to have that ritual of closing up the workday and then entering the home life. So think about Mr. Rogers would come in the door from work and he would take off his jacket, put on the sweater, take off his shoes, put on the comfortable sneakers. He was intentionally ritualizing that movement from the outside world to the inside home life. So those often also make good ritual times, the transition times. All right, let me tell you about my morning coffee habit. And I think this will serve as a way for thinking about how to refresh your habits and then also the seasonality of it. So I have had a habit, a ritual of taking my coffee out to my back porch every morning all summer long, and it's been wonderful. So this puts me outside in nature. We live kind of out in the country, so we have a lot of nature around. We have a little chipmunk family that lives around the porch that I often watch. So this ritual of having my morning coffee outside has been wonderful. I can enjoy the breeze. I can enjoy the sunshine. I have loved it. However, the fall is coming, and I know I'm going to need to change that ritual up. So I have some heated blankets that we use on the back porch, and we've had a few cool mornings that I've been able to use those, and I love that. But eventually it's going to get too cold for even a heated blanket. I'm going to need to move my ritual inside, and I want to make sure that I don't end up just in front of my computer when I do this. I want to choose what chair I'm going to have my coffee in, and I want to be intentional. Now, the other piece of that for me is I often will watch YouTube videos on my phone during that time, which is fine. Some of that does bring joy to my life, but some of it does not. Some of it I'm just scrolling, I'm not really paying attention, I'm not being intentional at all, and I let that kind of crowd out the joyful ritual and the meaning and purpose for what I'm doing there. So I need to intentionally clean up that habit. What I'd like to be doing instead is reading. So I need to find a ways to make sure that when I have my coffee in hand, I also have my book in hand. I set a timer maybe so that I read for a certain amount of time just to keep me on track with the thing that's actually going to bring me joy. Not the thing that's easiest, which is just scrolling my phone, but the thing I want to be doing. Now, another winter ritual I have in mind is a TV show. And yes, I'm not sure that the positive psychology researchers would call a TV show a ritual, but I have a specific intentional show in mind for when we get into those winter evenings. And that is the show Ted Lasso. If you've watched this, leave me a comment below and let me know how much you've enjoyed it. I have not heard from anybody who did not enjoy this show, but I have not seen it yet. And I've had so many people tell me I need to watch it. So my intention is that once we can't be outside in the evenings anymore, and our evening routine in the wintertime, I feel like is not always as intentional as it needs to be. I want to I want to sign up for Apple TV or whatever it is that I need to watch Ted Lasso on and watch that with my husband. And then I'm going to be intentional about pulling out the positive psychology lessons from that show, which I've heard it is just ripe with. So I'm very much looking forward to that. And I am going to treat that as a ritual for us. So I think that'll offer connection with my husband. It'll offer some entertainment, some coziness. So that's kind of where I'm going with that idea as a ritual. And maybe that gives you some ideas for what you would do. The difference of having something that's a ritual is it's very intentional. I'm picking the show intentionally. I want to discuss and think about the show versus we're just kind of scrolling through Netflix and choosing something at random. That's a completely different thing. And I wouldn't call that a ritual, maybe a habit, but not a ritual. But I really want to kind of elevate this experience of watching Ted Lasso to a ritual. So let me know what you think about that show. Don't spoil it for me. I haven't seen it yet. So now, next week in the Joy Refresh series, we are going to be talking about gratitude. So I'm going to have all kinds of ways to connect with gratitude. Of course, we know having gratitude and being grateful is wonderful for our mental well being. And it's often told to keep a gratitude list. I personally have had trouble connecting with that type of gratitude practice. But there are many, many other ways to connect with gratitude that I have found impactful for me. So stay tuned for that. That's next week. I am still hammering out my YouTube posting schedule, so I can't tell you exactly which day, but it will be next week. So the best way to know when that video goes live is to subscribe to the channel. But I would love to hear from you. What kind of joyful rituals do you have in your life? What are some ways that you maybe can deepen something that you're already doing to turn it into a ritual? Yeah, I would love to know. I'd like to get some ideas from you. Thanks so much for watching, and I'll see you next week.